Welcome back to the Last Week This Week podcast. Not an episode. I'm Ian Scott.
Not an episode. I'm Zach Huber.
Yeah, this is our best of worst of for 2024. We've done this the last 2 years for 2023 and 2022, and we want to keep the tradition going. So this is our 2024 list.
So we're about a week or so into 2025. I'm really excited for this year, but this year had a lot of movies and TV shows, good and bad, that we got to watch and see. I definitely didn't see as much as I may have wanted to this year.
Same here.
So there's a lot of movies that would probably be on my best of and worst of in other years than this one. So this year is a bit more of, I guess, the things that I decided I wanted to go see. I didn't see everything this year.
It's our personal watch lists and favorites and personal, worsts and so obviously it's not a whole encompassing list of what came out last year, but it's just what we watched. And
yes.
Yeah.
So if you're like, why wasn't this, indie movie in your top 5? It was so good. And something I've never heard of. It's just, I kind of try to make it out maybe once, twice a month to the movies if I can. But with that said, we're going to start with our TV shows that we watched. But we wanted to give some honorable mentions. So we're going to do like 3 honorable mentions. I'll start off real quick. Just because it's not finished, neither one of these shows are finished. I would like to say Skeleton Crew and Creature Commandos have been excellent.
Well, I will say Creature Commandos did finish. So,
but I didn't finish it. Okay. And it finished in 2025. So whatever.
I'm just gonna say it's gonna be on my list somewhere. It's not my honorable mentions.
And then last one, I will say Rings of Power season 2. I was very surprised that I liked this season as much as I did, because the first season I thought was meandering and boring at times and just kind of felt like I was all over the place story-wise. I didn't, maybe besides like an episode or 2, I really didn't feel the magic. And then this season came around. I was extremely skeptical. I didn't even know if I wanted to bother watching it. And it was some of the best TV that I had seen this year.
But not to make your top 5.
Not to make my top 5, but I'll say this. House of the Dragon season 2 is not in my top 5. And I'll at least do an honorable mention for Rings of Power season 2.
So my honorable mentions for TV this year, one is Skeleton Crew, because it hasn't finished. But it's been a very enjoyable, nice, refreshing show spin on Star Wars, and I'm really enjoying it. It's not perfect, but it's good.
It may not be perfect, but I would like to say that it's brought a little glean of like happiness and magic and wonder into Star Wars that I haven't felt in a minute.
Yeah, no, definitely. Another one for me, I think, is is House of the Dragon season 2. Yes, it's not as good as season 1, but like I've rewatched it multiple times now, I think, and it's a really good season. Like I really enjoy a lot of season 2. It's a slower season. It's not the same format, but it's a really good story. I think it's got a lot of the marks that season 1 did. And then lastly, I want to say The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live. I just want to give a little props to The Walking Dead for finally figuring it out after they seemingly like lost their formula for a super long time. You just brought it back to like a love story, and you brought it back to Rick, which is like the best thing. Like we all wanted to see Rick again, and it was a nice story to bring him home. So that was a nice one. But those are my honorable mentions.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna start with the negative and work our
We
way
are.
up the positive. I unfortunately only have, because of I just don't want to watch hours of bad TV. I've only seen 2 TV shows that I would deem are actually terrible and bad. So starting at number 2 is
Wow, only 2. Okay. Well, do you want me to give me my 5, 4, and 3 before we get to your 2?
Sure.
Okay. So my and I will say I'm kind of in the same boat. The number 2 and 1 are like the really bad shows, and then the other 3 I'm being a little hard on. I'm gonna say that. So number 5, I'm gonna say That 90s Show season 2.
That came out this year.
It did come out this year. Yeah, it got canceled this year too. Which is, I really enjoyed season 1. I think it might have been like an honorable mention for me last year. But season 2 just it could have gone in a really interesting direction with like the relationships changing up, and then they just did nothing with any of that from what they set up in season 1. I wasn't as like laughing as much throughout the show, so
Which is kind of a problem if you're watching a sitcom.
yeah, I mean, like I would laugh, like the show would get me to laugh, but I remember laughing a lot more in season 1.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So, and then number 4 is The Boys season 4. I will say, like I said, I'm being hard on this. I had a lot of problems with season 4, like a lot more problems than I did with any of the other seasons. So, I think it had way too many storylines. It was a mess this season with Frenchie and with Huey, and I don't know. I think it did some really good things with Homelander and Ryan. I enjoyed the season overall by the end, but there were a lot of things I would have done differently in season 4. Number 3 is Dune Prophecy. That one for me, even though I didn't finish it, it was majority of the time a pretty boring show, and the only time I was ever really interested in what was going on was when that dude from Arrakis was around. So
yeah, I
don't even have desire to go like finish the season.
Yeah, I feel like this pressure to finish it as somebody who's a fan of Dune,
Right.
in the book, but yeah, I mean, I didn't even feel like including it because I only watched 2 episodes because I just wasn't feeling that itch to keep watching. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So yeah, and then I'll let you go to your number 2 now.
So my number 2 is Echo.
We have the same number 2.
Okay. I bet we have the same number 1 as well.
I'm sure we do.
Yeah. I mean, look,
Yeah.
Echo, I didn't have a whole lot of excitement or interest in watching it. They didn't particularly make the character seem like somebody that I wanted to follow when Hawkeye originally came out, even though I think the character in the comics seems like pretty cool. And they kind of fooled us for a second when they dropped the trailers before it was coming out. Like
some of the trailers look pretty good.
The trailers looked really good, and it looked like a bit more edgy, violent, darker.
And there were some very violent moments in the show, but not enough to like give it that feel.
Yeah, and the result was
a poorly written main character who you couldn't figure out what their motivations were.
Yeah. So yeah, everything Ian just said, I would say like Echo as a character was generally unlikable for most of the series.
Yes.
I didn't really understand much about her. When Kingpin came into the fold,
that's the best part.
Was good, but also was like, well, I was also confused about why he was so angry and what he wanted out of this. I thought a lot of the characters from the hometown were kind of just, I don't know. They were there. They didn't really add. They were cheesy at times, like the sidekick-ish.
Like cousin.
Right. There was a weird kind of tension between her and her best
Oh,
friend.
dude. Remember all of the horrible like opening scenes they did for a little while?
You're talking about like the flashback stuff.
Yeah, like you know how they did that silent movie and then like they didn't
Mhm.
do it a silent movie. And
Yeah,
then
you could
they
hear
had
like
that
the noise.
right. And
The
then you had
noises.
the first one was probably my least favorite, where you had like the woman like underground and then like she picked something up and then like the ground collapsed
Oh,
or something.
yeah,
It
playing,
just
like-
looked really bad.
Yeah, they tried to
Yeah.
tie in the whole like ancestral like
Right.
power,
Native American
and
heritage,
you know,
right.
yeah, and it came imbued with some sort of power, and they didn't really. I don't
Yeah,
really
like,
feel like
that's
that was
the
explained
thing.
very much. So then, like, they made
Like,
this
she-
character that was inherently a badass because you know she was deaf and also
Paraplegic?
well
Is that what you would call it?
I maybe I don't know, but like at least like
She- yeah.
slightly disabled, like you know
With the
has
leg,
has fake leg, and was doing all this stuff, which I was like, that's cool. And then they gave her superpowers, and I was like, well,
Like she
I don't know. It's like
technically
if
has
Daredevil got
superpowers.
superpowers, and I was like, well, Daredevil seems less cool now.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally. But yeah, I mean, like she has superpowers in like the smallest sense in the comics, which is like she can copy anybody's like fighting style, and I think that's cool. Like she's an Echo, you know. Like I think that's her name,
Yeah, I wish
Um,
they would have gone in that direction.
right? And like the first episode of of Echo, like where she even fought Daredevil, was very much like I felt was going in that direction. And then once you brought her into like Oklahoma, I was like, this is a entirely different show. now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything that had to do with her getting like revenge or stuff in New York was interesting and cool. But
Right.
yeah, all this like finding out what I want or like all of a sudden she was like, I want to be the queen pin, and we were like, well,
Ugh.
why? Why did you want to do that?
Because you just hated everything Kingpin did. So what,
you
why would
hated
you want to be
everything
him?
about that.
Right.
So yeah, Echo, just not a very well written show. I thought a lot of the performances were pretty flat. I did like her parents or
No, I think
her
it was her grandparents.
I did
Both her
like
grandparents I liked. Yeah.
I like their grandparents or
Yep.
her grandparents. I kind of like some of the stuff in the roller rink.
Some of it, yeah.
I like the Daredevil fight.
My least favorite thing though was that finale. I mean,
like the potentially
bless.
turning Kingpin good thing.
it was so dumb. He just like
yeah.
he had them all in the palm of his hand to kill, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm running away." Like, what? Huh? What?
Yeah. So that's my
Yeah.
number 2. That's both our number 2s.
It's both on number 2s.
And
yeah.
both our number 1s are Ian.
The Acolyte.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, and here's the thing. There are probably things in the Acolyte that I like more than Echo. Like the episode 5 lightsaber like duels, like those were amazing. Like I was so happy with those. And like the
Mhm.
reveal, I think of maybe I know I think you kind of found it dumb, but like the reveal of like who the Sith, you know, the Sith guy, I can't even remember his name. Darth Teeth, I'm gonna call him.
Darth Teeth. Darth
like,
Bro.
I think he was like I think everything about episode 5 was pretty much good for the most part. But yeah, I think they butchered like writing Osha and her twin. I did love like her mentor, like Osha's mentor. I can't remember his name.
Soul.
I thought he was the best part of the entire show.
Agreed.
But like the story they had around all the characters where like he did something horrible to them that, you know, he's kept a secret. Like nothing was ever that horrible. Like
It's
yes,
just a misunderstanding.
right. Mainly, I think it was like 95% of misunderstanding. And then you can kind of blame Soul for letting like May, I think it was May, right? Her Osha's sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like he chose Osha over May. I think that's like the only thing you can blame him for, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't even think Osha was mad about that, to be honest. So he dies. So there's nothing even good for a potential season 2. They tried to force
They
in
killed
Darth
they killed
Plagueis.
almost all the characters that you had been following. And all the characters that were interesting, like Jackie, I quite liked.
I love Jackie, dude.
And and
I loved
liked
Indara, but they killed her in the first like 5 minutes of the show.
killed Indara. They killed
They killed the Wookiee,
yes.
Kashyyyk, or whatever his name is.
No, because that's the race.
That is the race. You're right.
Oh man, what was the Wookiee's name?
That's how much of a minor character he was. He gets killed off screen.
Oh man, I can't remember. I think it starts with like a T.
I don't know.
But anyways,
I don't know.
the guy who's like kind of like a knight in the Jedi.
Yord.
Yord.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So like all these characters, as you know, either like Yord could be a little annoying, but you kind of got like a sense that he was like a good guy.
Yeah, he's
like,
a good guy. Like, and I can
he
pass.
was just a little too like
his
by
narkiness,
the
right.
books, kind of.
Right.
But yeah, they killed him off, which could have been cool. But then you get stuck with Osha and
The
May,
worst characters.
who, the way that they're written, it's like everything that they believe, they'll flip on a dime and start acting the complete opposite with little to no explanation or build up as to like a indicator that was going to happen.
Right.
And then you also get stuck with the Jedi Master, the green one from Coruscant, who's also in the books.
Yeah, she was bad.
Venestra.
Master Venestra. Yeah.
And she was just like also the most flip-floppy. We're doing things by the books. We're not doing things by the books.
Yeah, I mean her main goal was basically like, we don't want to let anyone outside of the Jedi organization know that we're like fucking up. That's basically what she was up to the whole time.
Yeah. And I just found her to be like this very cold, unlikable
incredibly
Jedi.
Right.
So, and then we get Darth Bro, you know, and it's
Darth Bro,
and you know, like, look, he was a fun character for a bit, but then,
for a little bit,
but then we start getting this like weird romance master apprentice thing.
Yep.
Also, just for me, some of the timing of certain events or like editing of certain episodes just felt really
I mean, remember
and
that episode 4 where it was like half an hour and then it cut off at like the good point?
You're just walking
it was
through
called
the forest
Day.
for it's called Day. They try to do like all these like you know, like what do I want to say, like not differences, but kind of like day and night,
contrasting
dark and light, contrasting, like you'd have like contrast, and like I kind of from the episode titles, and I kind of was like thinking, you know, like this whole twin thing is gonna go a certain way and they're gonna flip, but they flipped like several times. But anyways, so there's a lot about this show, like you said, the fights, some of the characters were good, and there were genuinely things I liked about this more than Echo.
Yes.
But I think with that comes like even greater frustration when things just ended up being so disappointing. And also like we get weird space witches with their stupid chant. And
it was like the worst witches of all time. I'm not gonna lie. Like they were so poorly designed and written. It's just terrible.
It's like you guys are under the same umbrella as you know, Marvel, and they have a cooler witch song. Like why can't we get the cool Jedi witch, or like, you know, Star Wars witch song? And so anyways, I just found it an incredibly frustrating watch, you know, from characters completely betraying everything about who they were, to disappointing reveals to watching entire episodes and then we cut right at the good part.
Yeah.
Or not even showing a Wookiee fight until like the last or second to last episode when I was promised a Jedi Wookiee fight. Which it's like you could make the argument like, well, you're gonna get it at the end, but like I don't know. I don't know. I feel like there was like 2 times that I thought we might even get it, and it's like we still didn't. No.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, like the flashback like stuff, it's very cool. I'm glad they put it in because then we got to see more of Endara and even in Torben. Like I like Torben. I know you weren't a huge fan, but
I mean, he was good in that long flashback where where they were all where they first go down to the planet and all that stuff. But
yeah, I just feel like the flashback stuff, like I want to see, like we already know they're dead. Like I want to see some present day, like some fights, some conflicts. I think it's a little weak to like put all of like the Wookiee stuff and all of Endara's and most of Torben's stuff like in the flashbacks. Yeah. So that was a rough one.
That was a rough one. That was my least. It's probably my least, even below Boba Fett potentially for me in terms of Star Wars TV potentially.
Yeah, it's potentially there.
It's
You're
potentially
right. I mean, there. The good thing about Boba Fett is that it has those 2 episodes to save it.
Right.
That are like near perfect.
And you know, I still like some of the stuff with him and the Sand People at the end of the day. Some of it I still don't mind.
Yeah, I guess.
But anyways, moving on
to our best.
To our best. All right. So number 5 is My Adventures with Superman season 2.
Oh, nice.
I think that I wish more people watch this show. I know there's a good amount of people who do because like it keeps getting renewed.
Yeah.
But this show, I mean, it brought me to tears. You know, like it is such an incredible retelling of Superman, and it's so creative in the way that they design the backstories of these characters. Everything from like what's going on with Amanda Waller. I mean, Amanda Waller has like this whole history with like Lois's dad, a new retelling of sorts with Superman. Okay. When we finally get Supergirl, I mean, that's when this season was like really singing. And I would say like the final like 2 to 3 episodes were like some of the best animated like show episodes like I've ever seen.
Nice. Wow.
I love the relationships in the show. I love the art. I love the story, the voice acting. I mean, it's just incredible. I can't wait for season 3. It looks like we're getting like we have Lex. But it seems like we might be getting more of like actual Lex because I think we're like, you know, we're like pre-Lex Luthor and but we're gearing up there.
Right.
But yeah, I loved it. It was amazing. I loved it.
Nice. Well, I definitely need to catch up on that because it sounds like I'm missing out. But
you are.
My number 5 is a very different show. It's Peacock's most watched show ever. It's Ted.
What?
Ted, genuinely,
Peacock's most watched show is Ted.
Yeah, it's ever. It's their most watched show ever. And what's so funny is they like it was actually so expensive to make. They were like thinking of canceling it, even with it having these crazy numbers. But
that's wild.
They were
Why
doing it for season
expensive? 2. Because
I don't know.
Of the CGI?
I guess for Ted is like he's this crazy CGI on him or something.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Which is right. But I genuinely like it's so nothing like Ted 2 and like everything like Ted 1.
Okay.
It's so funny. Like they add in like his like older cousin who lives with them, and like his parents, and like it's just, I think it's great to see like Ted and like John as a teenager interact and like have a different era of like them being stupid idiots. And I don't know, it's like I'm a huge fan of Family Guy. I mean, not as of recently, but like it's got the very similar humor. It's Seth MacFarlane. But yeah, I thought all the characters were great and hilarious, and yeah, I'll be delighted to go back to season 2. So
Interesting.
yeah, I had a really good time watching that.
Okay, I might have to check that out. I don't have Peacock, but I might have to check. That's
I think it's like 7
surprising.
episodes.
That's very surprising, but okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very different show.
My number 4 is actually on your worst. Interestingly enough.
Okay. Wow.
So
The Boys, huh?
The Boys season 4.
Okay.
I know that I know that I have my own personal issues with it. I don't think that it's like a perfect season of television. But the time, like for example, like I'll just say like the stuff going on with Huey and his dad, the stuff going on with Frenchie, very, very much did not need these 2 plot lines going throughout the show, but they were there and we got through them. And
sure, yeah.
But everything else, I was thoroughly, on the edge of my seat at times. Was still like I feel like we're still getting like iconic Boys episodes that we'll talk about, the same way that we talk about episodes from like 3, 2, and 1. I think Anthony Starr's performance just keeps getting better and better. I think
it does.
Carl Urban's performance keeps getting better and better. I love the whole thing with Butcher and his, spoilers, made up friend that had died in his head, and it turned out to be the V cancer.
You're right. I mean,
tumor.
Genuinely, that and the reveal that like both he and his wife are like both like the same side of a tumor or different sides of a tumor is just like insanely good writing. It's probably some of the best writing I've seen in The Boys. So I'm gonna give season 4 props. I agree. Like that was incredible.
And I loved everything with Firecracker and God, what was her name?
The
super smart. Man, it's gonna bother me. Hold on,
it's gonna bother me.
Hold on.
Shoot,
Boys season 4 cast. I know. I don't know why I'm. I don't know why I'm forgetting.
Because I know there's like something in front of her name that's like, or at the end that's like that she didn't want.
Yeah, it's taken a bit, but or maybe I have it here. Sister Sage.
Sister Sage. That's
there we
what
go.
It was. Okay.
Love Sister Sage. Loved her manipulation of events and
a really dark view on like life and the world. Yeah.
I didn't love Huey being away from the boys as much. But when everybody eventually gets back together, like it was, I still felt like it was really strong. I mean, last episode with like the shapeshifter taking over, Starlight and all that confrontation.
I think I'm needing a season where we have like we don't have any bullshit going on with like the relationships. You know what I mean? Like let's take the season 5 and be like, hey, let's have Huey and Starlight in a really great place, and let's have Frenchie and Kimiko in a really great place, and not like screw with their relationships anymore, because we're just dragging out drama for the sake of drama.
I agree. But besides those points, I would gladly watch this season again.
I would watch it again too. I would.
I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Maybe not as good as 3, but I really liked it. I really loved it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, my third, I guess sorry, my fourth show is Agatha All Along.
Wow. What the
I
heck?
I loved Agatha all along. I did.
For anybody who's just joining us for this
Yeah.
particular end of the year thing, Ian was so against this show.
I really
He did
was.
not want this show. I mean, granted, I wasn't wanting the show, but he was like, this show, it's going to be bad. I don't think I'm going to like it.
It's not perfect. There are things that are, are rough at times. I think you would even say the finale is a little rough.
The finale's rough. I don't like stuff from the finale.
I just feel like it did. I mean, alone. I mean, you could just point to, I think it was like episode 6, where like it was revealed that one witch, the older one, had like this like time manipulation like throughout the like her entire life, that like she's been going back instead of forward, and it's just like it was truly like one of the best things that Marvel's ever put in an episode of a show.
Yeah, hands down.
And I think even before that, like the group of witches, like their chemistry, I thought was really great. I thought Catherine Hahn was amazing in the show, like even better than I thought she was in like WandaVision.
At least for me, I think I liked her better in WandaVision.
I loved like how dark she could get in this show.
I did like that. No, that was good. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't see some of that in WandaVision, and I really appreciated that. But then, I really enjoyed also like how, and maybe you feel differently, but like how they kind of wrote in Billy Kaplan into this, and kind of like, I thought it was creative. I really love that scene at the end too, where like Billy is finding Tommy and like Agatha's helping him with it, and like I think it's a beautiful scene. I think like there were mysteries throughout that I was like, hell yeah, like like Rio being Death, and like Billy, or the teen being Billy, and that he created the whole fucking thing, because he's Wanda's kid. Like I think there were really great like reveals and mysteries throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think like that would easily be like maybe 6 or 7 on the best of. I mean, it was like must watch TV at a certain point.
It really was. Like I was like actually excited to be like, let's see what's going to happen in the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm surprised that wasn't even in your honorable mentions, to be honest.
I'm really enjoying Skeleton Crew, Creature Commandos, and
because like I would say I'm enjoying Agatha more than, like I enjoyed Agatha more than I am enjoying Skeleton Crew right now.
They could interchange potentially. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about Skeleton Crew that just makes me feel like a kid again. So I'm just like, I don't know, a little giddy about it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Anyways, my number 3. Now, this is probably Ian's number 1, but we'll see. And granted, my number 1 is more of a preference on my part.
Okay.
But number 3 is The Penguin. So, I know it's on his list somewhere, so we don't have to stay on it long. But The Penguin, probably one of my, if not, no, it was one of mine. It's not my top, but it was one of my most anticipated shows. I think that Colin Farrell in the Batman was a complete standout for only being in it for like maybe 10, 15 minutes or less.
Yeah, it could have been less.
And they really fleshed out and expanded upon in exciting ways this smaller part character from the Batman into this truly like one of a kind, top rate villains that I think we've seen on screen in a long time. Right. I thought that I didn't know how, episode to episode, how this show could continually to do like go for like the way that it did, because I just felt like every episode he was gonna like get fucked over and like lose everything.
Yeah.
And
I
then
mean, every week you were like, how do we have another episode?
like there was just, it was levels of writing that, like other TV show seasons would get maybe one or two of the storylines that it was presenting a season, where this one was just like in an episode was like going through storylines.
Absolutely.
And then huge, flips on what you think about him, halfway through the season. You don't really, and one of the great things about this show, I would say, is it doesn't tell you who you should care about.
That's fair.
If any, like it really is like it really fleshes out the characters and gives you all the perspectives in a way that it really is like, well, who you have to decide for yourself. Who do you think is in the right or the wrong or whatever in this situation?
Right.
And I just thought it was extraordinary storytelling. I thought the performances were incredible. If this was any other year, this could potentially be, show of the year for me. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't.
Okay.
Though it was incredible. And, maybe there's a season 2. Maybe it stays a limited series. I know at the like SAG Awards, it was, or whatever, it was put under limited series. So like, maybe it's just one and done. And if it
I
is,
hope that's the case, genuinely.
That I'm fine with that. I don't need a season 2.
No, I think you're forcing it with a season 2. Honestly, like the only reason I think a season 2 happens is like when the Batman 2 has come out and there's more development that needs to happen with. But like right now, he is prime set up to be in the Batman 2 the way he is,
Yeah.
And I don't think we need to touch that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with what you said rather than, like
the placement.
The placement. Yes. Yeah. I couldn't think of the word, but yeah. So my number 3 is Creature Commandos. I have seen all of it. It's, the finale is incredible. I'm very happy with the finale. Does some surprising things, sets up some cool things, some surprising things. But overall, I think like it's another beautiful like James Gunn like beautiful character study. I think it's like that's what half of this show is. Like half of it is like what's happening in the current day, and then like each episode delves in on a character of the Creature Commandos, and every single one of them has just a tragic and beautifully written backstory that makes you feel for them, makes you feel like they're not the villain that they've been made out to be.
Except for maybe one of them.
Do you think Dr. Phosphorus is that guy?
I mean,
here's the thing. Yes, he became a villain, but like he wasn't originally.
Yeah, but
yes, yeah, agreed. Yeah. And like it was so cool
pretty
to
horrific
see
things.
Yeah, it was so cool to see like Gotham and Batman in that episode, and I think that's what was so cool about the show too, is like it pulled so much in from the DC universe and gave us so many different things and ideologies and like corners of the world that we're just kind of like seeing a peek of, and yeah, and then on top of it you have this great like kind of mystery that like flips on its head at one point, and like great animation and humor and fights and story, and so
and
yeah, I think I think you like the music more than me, but
I've been listening the fuck out of that soundtrack.
Have you really?
I've been listening to so much Romanian gypsy punk music.
I'm just not a huge fan of like that like the band in particular that they use is like his voice. I'm not in love with.
Oh, his voice is so charismatic.
Yeah.
It's so, I don't know. I love that band. That band's so cool.
Cool. Well, yeah, it easily made my number 3 this year, and I loved it. I love that show.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's I only feel comfortable putting shows up on the the top 5 if I finish them, which it just finished the other day or yesterday or whatever. So
Yeah, it would have been yesterday. Yeah,
and I didn't watch it yet. So
you should watch it.
It could have. I know. I'm gonna watch it probably tonight. But
Cool.
Number
Number
two,
two.
which again, any other year, this would be number one. But it just so happens that there's a certain property that came out this year that I just can't resist.
Sure.
Number two is Shogun.
And
it's the show that Ian kept saying this entire year. Oh, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm so excited. It sounds really good.
So beforehand, I was very excited, and then I was like starting up like I think September, October. I was like, okay, I gotta get around to watching this so I can get it on my list. It just never happened, and it's my Andor of this year. That's what happened, and it's a shame I left it off my list. But tell me how great it is.
So Shogun is, it's so good that it went from being a limited series to now green lighting a season 2 because
and I think season 3 too, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Potentially, but like at least a season 2. It covered as far as I'm aware, like the entire novel of the book that was written. So where they go from there, I don't know.
I mean, there are sequel books from what I hear, but I hear they're more so making like an original story based off of the first season. I
think you're right.
Yeah.
But this was such an incredible story, and I haven't seen an FX show put to the scale of this show.
Right.
The story of this British like sailor who comes to feudal Japan and is just like starts off no Japanese, no understanding, just thinks of everybody as like a what do I want to say? Just kind of like almost? like feral, like they're barbarians, like and she just assimilated into this culture in such a beautiful way, having these incredible, like there's amazing dialogue, and I feel like incredibly accurate depictions of the type of life that the Japanese lived. Mm-hmm. These Game of Thrones-esque politics going on. I mean, every episode just felt like I was watching a movie. And it really culminated in like a beautiful ending that I think some people were maybe disappointed that we didn't get this big battle, but to me, that was kind of what the guy who kind of became Shogun or is set to become Shogun kind of was all about in the first place.
Right.
And who knows, like maybe we'll see more of that or whatever in the second season. Whereas like the Penguin, I felt like I was, like on cocaine and having like a joyride. This was like, I don't know. This was almost like masterpiece. Like I'm watching this Lawrence of Arabia, but on the small screen. It was like a stranger in a strange land, or like maybe like Running with Wolves, sort of like learning the culture and then like having relationships in that, and then you also have like these fighting families and and love and romance and like friendship, and I don't know, like not that that's not in other shows, but the way that it went about here, it was just, I don't know. It was just amazing. Loved it.
I gotta watch it.
And I think just like also just like a whole show that like everyone is properly speaking Japanese and are all like Japanese actors playing these roles, like retelling stuff from their history. was just like it was his. I love historical stuff, so like it was not only just like historically interesting to watch, but it was just like also a great show. I mean, you had like stuff with the church, and then stuff with like what England and Spain was really up to with this stuff. Like it was nice. Super cool. It was super cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, yeah. Bummed I didn't get to watch it, but glad you got to.
It was your own fault.
It is. It's my own fault. It is. So yeah, my number 2 is Fallout. I won't speak too much on this since I know it's your number 1 probably. I'm gonna spoil a little bit. But I love Fallout. I think amazing characters. Like three very captivating characters and storylines. You had an amazing vault mystery like going throughout the show that I loved. The world of Fallout felt so real and alive, and the music and the set design was just incredible. I thought Walter Goggins was amazing as the ghoul, and his backstory as like the vault boy, or the, you know, whatever you want to call him, is like incredible. And then, you know, how they tie it all in at the end of the season and kind of give you like how the fuck everything happened, you know, originally was so amazing to finally see. Like whenever I tell somebody who hasn't watched the show to watch it, I'm like, you are literally witnessing Fallout 5. Like this isn't like a remake or like a spinoff. Like this is the next inline story for the games.
Yes.
And they do it so incredibly well. And like the humor and the story and the acting is just, it's all there, and it's great. It's fantastic. So that's my number 2.
Yep. My number 1, like Ian said, is Fallout. You know, look, is it like, I don't know, the same sort of levels of storytelling as like stuff like Shogun and the Penguin have? Maybe not. But to me, it was something that as soon as I finished it, I wanted to watch it again. I just love the world of Fallout, and I thought that this show did it justice.
Right.
And did it and represented it in a way that was so well done, so believable, and entertaining, that I was thoroughly, just like, my inner teenager was just like, I blocked out my entire weekend just to make sure that I watched that show all the way through.
Nice.
And like Ian said, I mean, the character of Lucy is like one of my new favorite characters. I love Maximus. I love the ghoul. I love the events that, like, if you are a Fallout fan, you get to learn. Like, I think that's one of the coolest things about the show is
like the passage of time, almost.
The passage of time, the things you learn about other, like, in the game, you know about these places and what's going on, and then you find out what has happened now. And there's drama, and I found, like, whether it's like the way that characters interact in the world, which is similar to the way you maybe would in the game, but it wasn't in like a goofy way all the time. It was like they made it very believable and dark, but also there was a lot of like humor and adventure. And it was just generally like, just it was so fun to watch. It was blowing my mind at times. How well put together the story was, the interpersonal relationships, the way that they kind of come in and out of each other's lives, and they all meet each other in different ways, the three of them. Yeah. So well done. Like you said, the vault mystery, incredible. I mean, it all culminated into this like fever pitch of like the drama with Lucy and her dad. Yeah. And with I'm blanking on Walton Goggins' like actual name as the Vault Boy, but like,
I mean, we just call him the Ghoul, really.
Yeah, but like him and the leader of the NCR, and then Maximus with like the Brotherhood, like all these just intertwining stories. They all culminated into this like I don't know, like they're all in different places, sort of, but they've all taken on new roles and they've had their viewpoints changed. And there's still so much mystery to be had. And I mean, we're gonna go to New Vegas next season. I mean, like, so
and like what's so great about those three characters is that like you picked arguably like three of the best backgrounds for them to come from that are like so like rich and like lore and it's just so interesting. Like her from being from a vault, I think that's always an interesting story.
Yeah,
Maximus being a Brotherhood who wants to be like a Brotherhood of Steel, but kind of fucked it up and is like kind of acting it. Like I think that was an incredible story. And then like to basically have one of the most influential, important characters in the Ghoul, like be such a huge part of like the overall story. And like to have somebody who's lived a couple hundred like years already is pretty incredible to follow. Like all three of those, I was excited whenever they jumped around. I was like, great, you know, another character I love, you know? Yeah.
So, I mean, overall, like it reignited something in me.
Yeah.
And it's I'm just like so excited for season 2. I know they're filming it right now. I can't wait.
I heard it was paused though because of the LA fires, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's very sad.
It is sad. But back to our list. My number 1 is in fact the Penguin. This was just like a no-brainer for me, genuinely. Like it's so rare when you have a spinoff show, but you know, from a movie that like really doesn't miss a beat, like tone-wise and story-wise, and really didn't have a ton of involvement from Matt Reeves. Like I think he wrote the story, but I think that's about it. And maybe he directed one of them. I don't even know. But
Not
like,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, just the story of Sophia Falcone, the story of Vic, the story of the Penguin, and learning every single layer of lore and backstory to him was mesmerizing to watch. And the world of Gotham was so full and real. And I loved the mafia, you know, mob aspect of it, and this gang war that was being played out throughout the show. And yeah, you know, you could pick sides, you know, I mean, really Sophia was like the rightful character to follow, but you love Oz and how like in just, there were so many times where he's just playing everybody like perfectly. And so like you want to root for that character, you know, and it's
I mean he's charismatic. I don't know. Sometimes at a certain point I was like, like that Batman meme where it's like, you know, next time you watch the Batman and when the chase scene is happening, like, get that motherfucker.
Well, sure. I mean, by the end of the show, you're like, wow, I fully hate this man. Like he does 3 terrible things back to back to back. But I think that's what's so strong about it too, is that like we've had so many movies. I mean, especially from Sony, we've had so many stories of villains that are like built into anti-heroes or heroes by the end. And they finally like realized, hey, we can tell a villain story and have him be a full on fucking villain by the end of the show, and everyone's gonna love it. Like, you know, it's how you kind of wrote Breaking Bad in a sense. Like you had one of the worst people on television by the end of the show, and you love following him. You know, it's mesmerizing TV. So they nailed it. And in 8 episodes, 8 hours of television, it felt amazing. And it didn't have any complaints really on that show. It was incredible.
It was.
So yeah, those are our best of and worst of for TV.
So starting off with our worst of movies, number 5 for me is Godzilla X Kong.
No way! Wow. Okay.
Look, I wouldn't say that this movie is a terrible movie.
Yeah.
As somebody who thoroughly enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong, I know the plot's kind of stupid. I know, but like it was a fun watch. It was dumb entertainment, and I got to see cool monkey lizard fights, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, it was a fun popcorn movie.
Whereas
Yeah.
this one had a lot of, they really dived into the fantastical here and kind of the cheese of it.
Yeah.
But I just felt like there wasn't enough fun at times. There were some really cool parts, like particularly when Kong meets like the Scar King. Like everything building up to that was kind of cool. But like a lot of the other kaiju fights, very underwhelming.
There were a couple I was really disappointed in. I'll give you that.
We didn't even really get that team up to like the very end, and it was very short lived. So for me, it's more of at number 5 because I just found it to be less fun than the last one. And
I will say the team up was honestly, I think it's longer lived than the previous movie, but
it might be longer lived. I don't know. Maybe it is, but like.
I guess you're like the promise of this movie was the team up, is what you're kind of saying.
Yes, and I think maybe what I'm trying to say is maybe it doesn't matter that it's short lived. It just was underwhelming. I didn't really feel like, I don't know. It just didn't hit me the way that, like, I know Ian enjoyed it a good bit more than me.
I did,
which is really surprising.
Because we're the opposite on the previous one, right?
But anyways, that's my number 5.
Yeah. So my number 5 is Trap from M. Night Shyamalan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That one was just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
I mean, like started off all right, and then
started off pretty good.
Like if you had just stayed in the venue the whole time.
Oh yeah,
that's a decent movie.
Yeah, it's a decent,
right, at the best. And then you like kind of switch the main character to the singer, and she kind of takes a huge role in this, and then he turns out to be this like absolute psychopath that like
and an
idiot, but also like somebody who will never be like put in prison because he's just gonna break out over and over again, which is so weird. And he's got like tunnels under his house, and he can escape a limousine with like 100 people surrounding it,
but he can't seem to have his kidnappee, stay in a car.
Yeah,
they just leave twice doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's I really didn't like that one. That was yeah. I hated the ending. I hated the main character. Yeah, it was rough. The twist wasn't good. It just not good. Yeah.
Well, my number 4 is Maxine.
Whoa.
I was really looking forward to this movie.
Yeah.
I really loved X. I really enjoyed I really loved X. Pearl stepped down, but there were still some enjoyable things about it. But I was really hoping that Maxine was gonna, we're gonna follow the character of Maxine from X. We were gonna, complete this trilogy of sorts. Going into the 80s, going to Hollywood, becoming a fucking star like she wanted to be.
Yeah, because like even I was like, that's a good trailer.
And it just, I don't know. It was like this very disappointing experience where I didn't really understand what she was about anymore. I was surrounded by characters. Well, there was a kind of like a slasher mystery at some point about all these characters in her life getting killed in very brutal ways. I mean, I'll give them that. Like, I mean, some of the stuff was pretty brutal and not like it was hard to watch at times, but I just felt like overall the sheen of like the 80s and Hollywood was just like kind of there. I didn't really feel like I was living it. And it just culminated in this, the ending was, I don't know. If they had set it up earlier, but it culminated in something that I was like, this is not as dramatic as I think they think it is. And
Right.
I like the stakes just weren't there. It didn't have any of the appeal of like the previous two. Like I didn't feel like there was any like really fun or crazy scenes that Mia Goth was having like she does in Pearl or in X. You know, it was just kind of like
It was like surface level.
It was like
compared to what the other movies
it
were.
was- yeah, well, yeah, I guess it was less fun.
Yeah.
It was more of like a by the books kind of like slasher
Right.
movie, and not that the other ones didn't also have that, but they were entertaining as whereas this one was just kind of like I don't know, like
Boring.
boring and just kind of like a slog to get through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my number 4.
Okay. Okay. Well, my number 4 is The Beekeeper.
Okay. The only reason that's not on my worst is because I knew what I was getting myself into when I watched that. So
Sure. I guess that's
I
fair.
enjoyed it more than you did.
Whew, this was a rough watch, genuinely.
Did you see the newest movie he's going to be in?
It's by David Ayer again.
Oh, no.
It's the same director, same actor. It's crazy.
I'm there for this little like trilogy, whatever thing they got going on.
Whatever they're doing. Yeah.
I don't think you are.
No, not really, because I'm not a huge David Ayer guy. But
A working man. He's got like a.
it's just like it's a better concept than The Beekeeper. I'm not gonna lie, but so yeah, this one was bad from start to finish. You had this old woman he was kind of like being a beekeeper for, and she gets like scammed by this company, and she loses all her money and kills herself. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna help her, and because I'm a retired beekeeper, and he goes on like this spree of like killing a shit ton of people. But then like you have this random character who's like the daughter of the person who died or who killed herself, and she has like no impact like the entire movie.
Yeah.
She's just kind of there.
Mhm.
And then you like you like halfway through the movie you tie in that the boss of this company is the son of the president, and you're like, what are we doing? You know, and
The stakes just went so high, and I loved it.
it was, I don't know, man. Like it was so incredibly cheesy. Like he's like, oh, our directive is to protect the hive. You know, it's just like so bad, dude. So bad. And like none of the other beekeepers you saw in the movie even had the vibe of being a beekeeper. So like, was he just the only one actually like fucking with bees? Like, I don't know. It was even more of a mess than Trap for me. But that was a rough watch.
Well, my number 3 is Trap.
Good. I'm glad it's high.
It was, yeah. I mean, everything that Ian said. I mean, it started off well enough. You know, I thought it was entertaining, and it was at least like give M. Night the benefit of like nobody's ever thought of this concept before. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
interesting concept. You know, kind of weird. They didn't quite get the like integrating the thriller plot with the like cat and or like getting out of like a maze sort of movie with like a concert experience, because half the time you're like, we're watching a concert, and then all of a sudden the creepy music would just kick back in, and we're like, no, we're escaping this place.
Yeah.
But like, you know, his relationship with his daughter, the way that I forget the name of the actor, but the lead guy who's the serial killer, genuinely unnerving performance. Like at first you're like, oh, is he just bad at acting? And you're like, okay,
Yeah.
he's just like, he's a serial killer that's trying
doesn't
to
know how to be a dad. Yeah.
doesn't know how to be like a person almost, and
Right.
is being too overly friendly. So
Yeah.
you kind of like are picking up. So like I thought that was pretty well done. But like Ian said, as soon as you leave the venue, the reasonings for things just go completely out the window.
Balls to the wall.
You know, the logic is insane. I mean, like the whole getting on Instagram Live trying to find a kidnapped kid, to like kidnapping the singer And
Also, like her just kind of
just
improving the whole time before that, like not having a plan is just it's crazy.
um to the very end where there's no resolve. It's just he's free.
just
He's getting
he's free.
himself free. All of
Yep.
that was meant nothing.
Genuinely, yeah. Like, what was
There
the
was-
point of that movie? I don't get it. I don't get
There
it.
was something to do with his dad. Don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
So,
Terrible.
anyways, Trap makes number 3.
Well, my number 3 is Joker
Wait, how did
Folly
we?
Ado.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So I was like, wait. How did I get to the second place? No, you're doing number 3. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep. But yeah, it's Joker Folly Ado, number 3. Yeah, I know Zach doesn't feel the same. I'm honestly surprised it wasn't in his top 5, to be honest.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay. Or even an honorable. Well, I guess we haven't gotten honorable mentions yet. This is just, it's a complete character assassination of the character you got in the first movie. For the most part, it's pretty boring. You know, you're just going back and forth between the courthouse and the prison. And, you know, it's a court drama when we already know the outcome for the most part. It's riddled with musical numbers. Half of them probably don't need to be in there. It's probably got one of the worst endings I've ever seen. It's a really bad one. But that just shows you how bad number 2 and 1 are. Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my number 2 is Mean Girls. Mean Girls, the musical movie that came out this year with Sydney Sweeney,
that was that
was garbage. I mean, it was one of the worst reasons to make something into a musical. There were songs just for the sake of having songs, kind of similar to the way that Ian feels about like Joker.
Yeah.
But instead,
not all the songs though. But yeah, go on.
Sure, but almost all of the songs were explaining something that had already happened, but in song form, and with lackluster set design. Some of them were good. Some set pieces were good. Others were totally boring. I really didn't like the lead actress playing Lindsay Lohan's role. Sydney Sweeney was probably the best part of this movie, but I watched it and I know there's a play that's Mean Girls that this is based around, but maybe the play's better because it's in that form. I don't know, but it was just such an unlikable lead character to watch personally, with like kind of just a blander retelling of the story. There were some cool aspects that they changed, but for the most part, forgettable songs to terrible songs. And just I just thoroughly
you'd never watch it again.
Would never watch it again.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's fair. So yeah, my number 2 is Venom: The Last Dance. This, if you know me, I don't like the first 2 Venom movies. This one somehow pulled off being the worst Venom movie of the 3. It has 0 interesting villains, and I will say Nola's in this, but he's barely a presence. Like he's maybe 5 minutes of screen time. And he's great, but he's not the villain of the movie. His like little demon puppets are. It's got really rough chemistry with Venom and Eddie. I don't really think there's much of any there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people would disagree. You added in a side character that was like, you gave them a whole like flashback sequence, backstory, and they really didn't amount to much. It's got a really lazy government plot. It's got a really lazy, just kind of road trip buddy story, and it all culminates into being at Area 51 for the most part, and it's just bad all the way through. It's not a good story. It's not, and yeah, I don't recommend the Venom trilogy to a single soul out there. I think everyone is better off not having witnessed those movies. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will get around to watching that at some point.
If you don't, I don't blame you, Zach.
And my number one, which I think is Ian's number one, is which I could be wrong, but like I feel like there's only one number one worst movie this year, besides maybe one other one that I just didn't choose to watch. But my number one is Madam Web.
Yep. That's number one. Yep.
I mean, look.
Let's get into that.
Look, I mean, from the very first trailer to, like I was not expecting much. This is coming from the same studio that gave us Morbius.
Right. But somehow it even was lower than the expectations we had for it. And
I mean, God, some of the worst dubbed voiceover I've ever heard.
It was so much too.
On top of the shots that they chose where like his mouth wasn't even moving for the villain, to an entirely very unlikable lead character with Dakota Johnson's Madam Web. I mean, she's kind of an asshole most of the time. Unlikable.
She doesn't really want to care for anybody, even though she's like an EMT, and you're just like, why did you pick that job? And it's got a weird connection to like Peter Parker for some reason.
For some reason,
born yet.
Yep.
None of the characters at the end of the fight really have any powers except Madam Web. And even then, like she's learning how to use them.
And to a certain extent, this whole movie could be changed if the villain just decided to change apartments. So, I mean, his whole thing was like, they come and they kill me at my apartment. It's like, well, why don't you move?
Yeah, well, maybe he's moved already, and we just haven't seen that part of the story.
We don't know why they want to kill him.
Yeah,
there's also no reason to believe that him being pushed out a window with the powers that he has would even kill him. So
that's fair. We all we know is that this guy has an empire. That's it. An empire of what? I don't know. He, when he goes searching for the girls, he kind of kills everybody first and then tries to get them last. Makes no sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. And then Dakota Johnson's like way of saving everybody is like ramming people with her car.
Lots
every time
people with their car. There's so much car hitting. There's so much hitting people's bodies. Mostly the main guy with her car. Lots of car driving. So much car driving.
A lot of car driving.
It's really frustrating.
You get a really bizarre scene where like she goes to the Amazon and like meets the people who like helped birth her.
And she was always supposed to come back.
I guess, yeah.
But like also they never took care of her. I'm not entirely
and somehow shipped her back to New York City. Who knows how they did that?
Somehow she's on a New York City, almost United States like watch list, but she can fly to
she can
South
get on a plane,
America.
Leave her car there at the airport. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really well written. I think we can say that. Right?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the worst movie I've seen in a long time, in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like Morbius might have been my number like one worst movie of 2022, and it might be worse than that.
It's worse than Morbius for me because Morbius has
somewhat of a story,
of a story, and there's the dance scene.
That saves the movie.
I love that. I know it's
goofy ass dance scene.
I know it's stupid, but I like it. And I like Matt Smith.
Have sex.
Is that the song?
Yeah, I think so. So dumb, dude.
Yeah, it's no, it was a bad movie. I felt like it was also, I know it was set in 2003, and to a certain extent, maybe they did that for some particular reason for Spider-Man because Peter is born then.
Yeah, but you can tell that movie went through a shit ton of rewrites and reshoots.
Like
and,
maybe they were trying to set up something like for a Spider-Man in this Sony universe at some point.
Right.
But to me, it just fed as like read as like, oh, people are really into the 2000s, so let's make a movie with Sydney Sweeney in the 2000s, and also let's write these girls' characters as being like the dumbest characters that, like, you know, when they go to the diner and they're just like making a whole,
yeah, they're
you know.
flirting with boys and dancing and just doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah,
Yeah, even though they're in danger.
they're in danger the whole time, but they're like, can't we like not do this?
Can't we just like be cool? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an easy number one for both of us.
Yeah.
So let's get to our honorable mentions. Let's get positive in here.
So my honorable mentions, we got 3 of them each, is Furiosa.
Whoa.
Furiosa, you know, George Romero? No, not George Romero.
George Miller.
Sorry, George Miller. George Miller's return after doing 2015's Fury Road, or 2014, I can't remember.
2015.
It was a very worthy follow-up. I mainly put this on here because I feel like that movie was very well done. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I think
it should be higher, to be honest.
It was Chris Hemsworth's probably best acting role I've ever seen.
No doubt.
The action was incredible. Just not a lot of people went to go see it, which is a huge bummer for me because I thought it was very well done.
It's such a bummer because I so want that third movie.
I know.
With Tom Hardy. Maybe not even Tom Hardy, but just a Mad Max prequel to Fury Road would have been so fucking good.
Yeah, so
we'll never get it now.
It's unfortunate, but I thought it was worth a shout out. My second honorable mention is Civil War by Alex Garland. It was, the only reason it's not in my top 5 is it was an incredibly powerful movie to watch. It was extremely the way that they laid out if the United States in today's day and age was to go into a civil war was very, like, there was visceral scenes that were ingrained in my memory. And some of the wartime scenes were particularly like, it was like I was being pummeled with like how intense it was. And so it was a really great like depictions, storytelling. There were some scenes that are like, you'd want to just like scream because you're like, or start laughing uncontrollably because you're just like so stressed out. Like in particular, the one with the Jesse Plemons, so stressful. But so it was an incredibly great movie to watch. It's just kind of like a harder one to like want to come back to just because of how intense it can be for me personally.
I'm just, like, for me though, if somebody hasn't seen it yet, I would gladly sit down and watch it with them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So that's why that's the only reason it's not higher. It was an incredible movie, very well done. I think it's like A24's like highest grossing movie.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's just a lot. It's just a lot.
Interesting.
And then my last honorable mention is A Complete Unknown, which is
nice.
James Mangold, Bob Dylan biopic with Timothy Chalamet. I wouldn't say like, there's, again, like, this is personal preference. Like, there's probably some better movies that you could put in my honorable mention, but I just found the performance from Timothy to the, like, kind of going back to not back to basics, but like the way that James Mangold kind of did like Walk the Line and other biopics that have been done for characters was just like, I just felt like I was watching a classic movie again, and just seeing this retelling of like 60s Greenwich Village and the folk scene and the dynamics between him and his love interests, and with Ed Norton's character and Woody Guthrie. And like he's not exactly like a likable character all the time. So there was a lot of drama. There was a lot of mysteriousness about Bob Dylan. I wouldn't say that you don't learn like a ton about him, but that kind of adds to it, in my opinion.
Right.
There were a couple like overdub parts, like in Madam Web, where like I'm like, whoa,
Oh, no.
their mouth's not moving. But to me, it doesn't bother me that much. It's just like, oh well. I thought the musical performances were fantastic. So,
And I heard Timothy like sang, right?
yeah, I mean it's all live.
Good for him.
So yeah, I really enjoyable, very
Nice.
enjoyable.
Nice. Well, my honorable mentions, first one being Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, easily the best superhero movie that came out this year.
Easily.
Easily, yeah. I mean, it was a great Deadpool movie. Like great humor, like amazing action. Like it's what we've always wanted to see, you know, Deadpool and Wolverine together. And even though it's not like the most incredible of stories, I think it was satisfying. And you know, each of them had a pretty good arc that they concluded by the end. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
Nice.
And then the second one being Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I don't think it's nearly as good, unfortunately, as Matt Reeves' movies. But it does like reroute Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes kind of franchise into a new era and a new kind of direction story wise. And I think it's a neat one. I don't think it's amazing. That's why it's not my top 5. But I think they did some things well. I think the movie looks gorgeous. It's got a cool like human character. It's got a couple of cool human characters. It's got some really cool like kind of dynamics tribe-wise with monkeys and then also like a really good twist with the human side of the story by the end of the movie. That's pretty well done. So yeah, that was a pretty good one. And then lastly, I have Woman of the Hour as an honorable mention. And even though that wasn't like, it's not an amazing story because it's more so like, it's marketed as like being as Anna Kendrick is like the main character, and she's really not the main character. It's really the serial killer of the movie. And there's not like an incredible point to be made here. I think it's more so a character study and like showing, you know, how easy it was for this guy and how he was able to manipulate people and, you know, what he did. And I think it's more so that rather than like driving a point home or like anything like, but it's a very well done movie and directed really well by Anna Kendrick. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's get to your number 5.
So my number 5 movie of 2024 is Alien Romulus.
Oh, okay.
Alien Romulus is, I think, one of it's a very worthy movie in the Alien franchise. I mean, it's right up there with Alien 1 and 2. And I was, it's been a while since we've seen a good Alien movie.
Yeah.
And I felt that Fede Alvarez and Kaylee Spaney, as well as the actor who played the android, I kind of forget his name off the top of my head.
They were all great.
It was just a great return to form. It was a great blend of Alien 1 with the horror and Alien 2 with the action, resulting in some of the most disturbing character designs I have seen in a long time.
That's fair.
The stakes just kept increasing and increasing and increasing to like a white knuckle, like fever pitch at the end. And it was so satisfying how it ended.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see how they continue these characters' stories going forward. I think they are. Yeah, I just thought it was an extremely well done horror sci-fi movie that had a lot of heart and also kind of, had this dystopian like kind of like what do I want to say, company sort of like storyline behind
Sure.
it. I mean, it's not like super like deep, but like there's a lot of layers. There was a good amount of layers going on that I found. I don't know. I found it good. It was fun.
Nice. No,
like
I
that
agree.
movie.
I mean, it's definitely the best Alien movie for me since like Aliens. Yeah. So at least did that right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, my number 5 is Transformers 1. That was a complete surprise because I was not hyped for this movie at all. But then our friend Manny just talked the living hell out of it. And excuse me. And it was genuinely such a beautiful like story of Megatron and Optimus and like how they started off as miners and like not actually miners like LR but ER.
Right.
And then the journey they go on and realizing that their whole life is a lie and the real like truth behind like Cybertron and who's actually ruling it. And visually it's really well animated, like really great art style. It really has an amazing finale at the end with Optimus becoming like the Prime and Megatron betraying him. Like it's all really really good and easily my favorite Transformers movie. So
yeah, nice.
It deserved my number 5. Yeah.
At number 4, I have Wicked.
Wow.
A lot of my list was like, how much do I want to rewatch this movie?
Sure.
And how much did it also like take up in my mind afterwards? And, I found myself wanting to listen to the songs consistently afterwards. I love the Broadway play. I thought that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande did these characters beautifully. I love.
Did you know I still like listen to The Wizard and I like every once in a while?
Nice.
Yeah, I mean it's such a good song. Like I can't get over it.
I love the soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean it was almost everything I could hope, minus a few things. And I just thought I was watching like an old school kind of movie, similar to the actual Wizard of Oz. And we don't always get movies with this elaborate of set pieces. And I thought like
True.
Shiv University was extremely well crafted.
Dude, wasn't it Shiz?
Or Shiz. Maybe it was Shiz.
It was.
Shiz University was very well.
What a fan you are.
I guess I should just never talk about Wicked again. I'll just never listen.
You're banned, Zach.
Kill myself.
You're fucking banned. All right.
I'm banned. I'm shadow banned. But yeah. Anyways, loved being up in that world for 2 hours and 40 minutes or whatever it was.
Nice. Well, this one's probably going to be, it wouldn't be on your list at all. But for me, dessert number 4, and it is The Wild Robot. Truly, I saw this movie. I didn't really see any of the trailers. I didn't know what to expect other than I'd been hearing great things about it. And it was such a beautiful story for me about like this robot who just wanted an objective and found that this objective that was put on her of being a mother was like the best thing that ever happened to her, and that she actually began to change as a robot. And you learn later on that like she's kind of manipulated her own like memory or whatever her protocols, her programming, and so now she cares as a mother would. And then you have this another beautiful story of this whole island of animals that was like ready to kill each other whenever they needed food, comes together to save everyone at the end. And I cried so many times throughout that movie. It was so wonderfully written and voice acted. I mean, the voice acting of like Pedro Pascal, like I thought he was amazing as the fox. and then you had beautiful animation and artwork. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. Would watch it right now if I could. So,
I wouldn't.
yeah,
That's okay.
but I loved it. I loved it.
My number 3 is Transformers 1.
Nice. Well, Manny's gonna be happy with us, huh?
Manny will be very pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything that Ian said, I think this is hands down the best Transformers movie that I've ever seen. I heard good things when people had seen previews of it at CinemaCon. But when the first trailer dropped, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, this seems a little goofy. And it's just one of those cases of the trailer just didn't accurately sell you on the movie, I feel like.
Right.
Because when it comes down to it, I mean, the levels of deceit and the levels of like manipulation, and then, you know, the character arcs between Optimus and Megatron and what they decide to do with the information, and also their relationship as a whole is just so good.
So good.
That when it comes around to a head at the end of the movie, it's all the more devastating. But to both of their points, like I feel like you could go with either one because you can understand how each one would feel about the given situation.
I would say a little less for me. I think I had a little problem with like how hard Megatron turned. Like, to basically be like, yeah, you can die. I'm done with you. Like, I think that's insane. But I agree for the most part. Yeah.
But yeah, it was beautiful. It was an incredibly moving movie, surprisingly. And even like Bumblebee by like Keegan-Michael Key, like, I thought I was gonna find him kind of annoying, but he was really an enjoyable character for the most part. Besides maybe like a few things, but
I think for me he was my least favorite part of the movie. But even then, like I didn't hate him at all. Like he was just a little annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, that is my number 3.
Nice. Well, my number 3 is Civil War. Yeah, I was a little surprised it was not in your top 5, but that's fine. That's fine. You can have different opinions. But yeah, no, I genuinely I think that like what's so strong in this movie is the relationship / like character study of Kristen Dunst's character and Kaylee Spaney's character. And like the relationship that they form and gain throughout the movie is really well done. But then like what just drives it home and like puts it all like, wraps it all together is how like by the end of it, when they get to DC finally, like Kaylee Spaney is that's her name, right?
Yeah.
I'm not fucking okay. Yeah. She has like fully become the woman that she's always wanted to be, like the photographer, the photojournalist she's always wanted to be, which she looked up to in Kristen Dunst's character. And like by the end, like she chooses like this, like the photojournalist over like being a human almost. Like she's really not even like she ran in to the fire without even thinking of her own life. And it's what's also beautiful about that is like Kirsten Dunst is like was this cold photojournalist at the beginning, but has now like gained this humanity in her and saves Kaylee Spaney. Like it was such a beautiful movie. You had such like intense moments throughout. Like there was a lot of tension. It was so cool seeing like a modern America in war. Like it's very cool visually. I enjoyed every second of that one. It was so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with any of that.
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's why it deserves my 3. Yep.
Well, my number 2 would have been my number 1 if it wasn't for, it was my number 1 until recently.
Okay.
So my number 2 is Dune Part 2.
Okay.
I mean, come on. I mean, it's Dune. It's
What is your number? I don't even know what your number one is now.
you won't get it. But like, so Dune Part 2, I mean, it was, I can't say if part 1 was better or like if this was better. I mean, they were both just so incredibly masterful,
Yes.
moving movies that, you know, followed the source material so well, was so faithful. Besides, like, I mean, they changed some things, but in some ways it made it better. I kind of like, there's things that I would maybe wanted that I didn't get, but like I try to just look at this as just the movie. But I mean, the set pieces, the interactions with Paul and the Fremen. I mean, you know, whoever played Elvis, what's his name?
Austin Butler.
Austin Butler is Fade Routha. The you know, the slow taking back of Arrakis, culminating in this final fight scene. I mean, there was just, I mean, the music, the sandworm rides. I mean, it was just this incredible.
Yeah.
I won't say odyssey, but like, it was this adventure turn, like, you know, like we don't exactly end up with like a hero at the end, you know, like, but like it's this amazing story of I guess when you're lots of different things, but you know, it's you know, fanaticism, also ruling factions, wars, integrating into different in cultures. I mean, it was incredible to watch. I've probably still seen part 1 more times, but I mean, it's been around longer, but like, can't wait to watch this for like the 3rd or 4th time. I think I've only seen it twice, maybe 3 times. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, any other year, this would have been number 1. I mean, they just don't, I know we say they don't make movies like this anymore, but like an IP, like a book about like a sci-fi world that's done by Denis Villeneuve, where it feels so real,
like real and alive, right?
I mean, it was something else. Loved it
for sure. Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. But yeah, my number 2 is Furiosa. I all my
your
honorable mentions,
runner-ups,
yeah. So I almost even like debated putting this at 1. That's how much I like Furiosa. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I think it was amazing seeing like the full story of a character, because we really hadn't gotten that in Mad Max movies per se before, like where we follow them from like a child to, you know, adulthood, and then, you know, I guess we kind of get the full arc, you know, by the end of Fury Road. But yeah, no, I thought like visually it was it might be my visually like favorite movie of this year. Like color wise, like everything was like so popping, and like I think it's just the visual style, like since Fury Road for Mad Max, that he's just nailed down, which is why I'm so upset we're not getting a 3rd. Because like he's just nailed that style now. But yeah, like I think her story, Furiosa's story, was so well done. Like having her be this kidnapped child and always wanting to find a way home and just adapting to every situation she had to, and then, you know, being able to get this insane revenge by the end of the movie on Chris Hemsworth character was amazing. And like he was incredible in it. Like his acting, like him being a villain was the highlight of this movie, like even more so than like getting back like a Morton Joe back, because I love a Morton Joe from Fury Road, but Chris Hemsworth killed it. I loved, kind of building out the world more. Like you got to see Gastown and
Bullet Town.
Yeah, that's the other one. And I just thought it was such a gnarly, cool, like well shot, well directed, well written movie. And yeah, I don't really have any complaints. Like it was such a fun ride.
It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It was.
So that's my number 2.
Well, my number 1 is Heretic.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. What what?
What? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm shocked. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So my number 1 movie is Heretic. Now,
that's the Hugh Grant one, right?
the Hugh Grant kind of horror movie.
Wow.
Now, I will say, if you go into this movie thinking, oh, we're going to get like a jump scare, like kind of horror movie, you're going to be disappointed. That is not what this movie is. I mean, there's elements of it, but it is not, it's not. But I mean, my God, the script on this thing is,
Yeah.
the screenplay is amazing.
Wow.
The performances, I mean, there's only like 3, like 4 or 5 characters in this entire movie. And you would think that a debate about theology could be boring. But when you have Hugh Grant playing this kind of creepy guy who's kind of interested in Mormonism, inviting these two women in to sell them in on the Church of Latter-day Saints, and then them going into this maze and trials and stuff, and it turns into something else, which I won't reveal. But it was just such, to me, like some people online were like, oh, like when our atheist, like you're on the atheist Reddit and they're like, like the mod is talking down to you or whatever. That's not how I felt about this. I found like me and my girlfriend were just talking for like an hour or 2 afterwards about this movie because it was just so thought provoking. The what do I want to say? Like the trials, quote unquote, or the kind of the analogies that were made, and the pushing back of different ideas, as well as the characters slowly revealing themselves about who they are and what they are.
Interesting.
Was just so good. I mean, it was so good. I don't know. Like there was just something about it that I was just like, everything just worked for me.
Okay.
I am so excited to watch it again.
I feel like I have to see it.
It was, I think everybody should see this movie. I think it's extremely thought-provoking. I think the performances are incredible. I mean, this is some of the best Hugh Grant's ever been, in my opinion.
Wow. Wow. It's just crazy to see that's your number 1. Yeah.
It's really good.
Wow.
It's really good in my opinion.
I know that's a cool one. Yeah, no, I didn't expect that. But yeah, you can probably expect my number 1 is Dune Part 2. Could you imagine if that wasn't even on my list?
I mean, the only reason, like, and I felt bad, like Deadpool and Wolverine wasn't on my list.
Not even honorable mentions.
Yeah. I really love that movie.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's been out and I haven't rewatched it. And I'm like, why haven't I rewatched it? Like, I should be rewatching it, right? And then I'm like, there's got to be a reason why I'm not rewatching it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would hit as hard on the second watch. So that's, yeah, I get it. But yeah, sorry, Dune Part 2. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to like drive the nail into the, or not, yeah, you know what I mean, into the wood.
Beat a dead horse.
Yeah, right. I'm not going to, more than it already has been. But it is such an amazing story that carries so well from the first one. Like the story of Paul and his genuine want to help the Fremen, and that being turned into something entirely different by his mother, really. And it's just it's a beautiful story of like genuineness turned into almost like betrayal by the end. And like his and Chani's like story and like their love story was really great and so heartbreaking to see like what transpires by the end of the movie. But yeah, then you also have like Austin Butler's character. I can't think of his You just said
Fade
the character's name.
Ralph,
Fade Ralph. I mean, he was an amazing villain, and he was captivating every second he was on screen. The fight at the end of the movie, so good. Like I didn't expect anything near that level of like fight scene in Dune. And yeah, and then you have great added characters like the princess that Florence Pugh plays. Like she's such a minor part, but she's great. I think who's the kind of main Fremen guy that's like really enthusiastic for Paul?
Stilgar.
Yeah, I mean, like he was a minor part of the last movie, and he had one of the most important, like really enjoyable parts on screen for this one.
Alisan Al-Gaib.
Yeah,
Alisan
right.
Al-Gaib.
I mean, and it's like it's like it's been memed a lot and it's funny, but it's also like it's heartbreaking to see him like fall so in line with a prophecy that like isn't really real,
But is it?
Well, yeah, I guess we'll see. I don't fully know. I mean, it seems pretty fabricated from what we can tell, but
yeah,
who knows?
Yes, but then like that's one of the interesting things is like when something has been fabricated so much to the point of it becoming true.
Right? Yeah. Well, it's only true if like Paul doesn't get them all killed. That's
But
the only way it becomes true. But
it's just it's just like to them it's true.
Sure. Yeah.
It's just fascinating.
It is. And yeah, like you said it earlier, like the story showing like the Fremen taking back Arrakis, like the gradualness of that, and it finally culminating into like the Emperor kissing like Paul's like hand, and you're just like, holy crap, Paul is pretty much the Emperor now. Like I don't know. And then he goes and kills Fade Ralph's uncle, and yeah, I mean it's a great story. That's a great second part to an amazing first part. So yeah, that was an easy number one. Maybe not super easy because I did have to think on that and Furiosa, but ultimately Dune came out on top.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's it took a while, but I think that is our best of and worst of 2024. I think there's always movies I'd want to mention, even more than the three in like my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
But we can't be on here forever. It'd be a live stream at that point, right?
It would.
Yeah, we appreciate you caring about our opinions. If you watched all the way through and listened all the way through, greatly appreciate you.
Check out the movies and TV shows. And
Yes.
if you want to have a fun, like bad movie night, you should check out the bad ones.
That's a good point.
I personally think that you will have a great time if you watch Madam Web or The Beekeeper. Those are some, look, The Beekeeper, that's like, action movie cheese.
Go into it having the highest expectation of cheese and
Yes.
terrible writing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're going into a movie called The Beekeeper. I'm just like, where are your expectations?
Yeah. And I guess like watch Trap if you want to like really not oh gosh, I don't even know how you would enjoy Trap. I mean, like just don't have any expectations for like a well-structured story. I guess just laugh at how goofy, like how insanely goofily evil he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to watch it. But yeah, that's it for us today. We like always want to say thank you for watching and listening. If you want to listen and watch in the future, we release episodes weekly and clips 3 times per week. We also do live streams at the end of each month, so watch out for those. If you, though, want to support us, we always appreciate a like, a comment, a rating, a review, or subscribe. And if you want to follow us on any of our platforms, the links to those are in the description below.
And then we will be back with our newest episode of our first episode of 2025.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah. And thank you guys for sticking in with the kind of mini Christmas break we're taking. It's a little holiday break,
Yeah.
Everyone needs those.
Everybody.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Well, until next time.
Bye.